I also represent an organisation known as the ICTTF, which is the International Cyber Threat Task Force, and this is a non-profit organisation which has been put together in order so that people can actually collaborate in defending against cyber threats. Okay, be they crime, be they warfare, espionage, whatever it happens to be, because what you'll find is, as I go through this presentation, you'll see that this is multi-jurisdictional. This is in regions throughout the world. You need cross skills, you need very clever people in different regions around the world. And to get that network, hence there's a website, ICTTF.org, and people can actually connect up and become part of that, whether they're very highly skilled or at different levels or whatever, they can all participate in that, and it's a free not-for-profit organisation. So very quickly, I get some of the basics out of the way, some of the terminology I'll use. I understand I'm a fairly eclectic audience here, so I'll try to keep as much jargon and acronyms out of it as I can, and I'll do that, but as I go through. So cyber warfare, what is it? So cyber warfare, actions by a nation state to penetrate another nation's computers or networks for the purposes of causing damage or disruption. It's been around a long time. There's lots of stories where it originated from, back to Ronald Reagan's days. You'll see stories if you Google them about Estonia, lots of different things. What you'll find is that there's no exact definition of these types of things. They tend to be blended, and I'll show that about crime as well, and how it relates to political terrorism and so on. You'll also see that a lot of this can be cyber riots online, where just normal individuals have become part of something and an attack, and we've seen that with WikiLeaks and things like that. So it's not all in a silo. This is terrorism, this is espionage, this is warfare. So, okay, this is real, as I say. It's been taken deadly serious by the big powers around the world. So the United States has put together the Cyber Command. The Economist refers to this as the fifth line. So you've got land, sea, air, space, and now cyberspace. And they put a general in charge, massive budgets, all about keeping the critical national infrastructure of the United States protected from this. This is happening every day, different forms of it and so on. The UK have now followed suit, and even you'll see countries like Cyprus and so on that are now bringing in conscription for the army for cyber experts. So if somebody has put up their head a little bit and said, you know, I'm fantastic at this, I'm a great hacker, whatever it has to be, they may be conscripted into the army. So this is a real threat. Some of the recent reports out from the UK Secret Service, there's a letter put to the top 300 companies in the UK to say, you have to assume you've been compromised by that, and basically it's the Chinese, that because there's a lot of nations that are attacking, looking for intellectual property and so on like that. So you have different levels of criminality. You have people that will be doing identity theft, you have people that will be going after intellectual property, trying to take out competitors. There's lots of different examples I can give you, from British Airways to attacking Virgin Atlantic and so on like that. There's lots of different aspects of this. It all falls under cyber threats. Okay, so let's move on. Cybercrime. This is basically any crime involving the internet or computers for the purposes of today's presentation. I want to talk a little bit about WikiLeaks, just to bring this into context, because it's one of the things most recent in the media. For those of you that are more familiar with WikiLeaks, it started off as one of these wiki sites that you can put in released information of the stuff that people could pretty much get sued over. It has escalated. We have our friend Assange behind it. Let's go right to the chase here, where it started to where it is now. Over 250,000 confidential files being released. But the interesting thing around this is what it has caused. You have the United Nations saying, please don't be doing cyber warfare against WikiLeaks. You have nation states basically trying to get this guy and kill him because of what he's been able to do and the power he has in releasing this information. He has what he refers to as his insurance file, which is some unknown information which has been put out into hundreds of sites all over the world, and it's encrypted. And if anything happens in, the key to that information will be released. And pretty much it's going to bring down governments, it's going to bring down some high power figures. So he has an awful lot of power, and I'll give you an example of this sort of power and how it can subvert stuff. He put a rumour, one sentence he said, I have tons and tons of information on the Bank of America. In an interview later on, he said, there's a major financial institution, and I'm going to release some information on them. Share price down by 3% instantly. Right, that's the sort of power these sites can actually generate from people. We know the more recent stuff in the media around PayPal and MasterCard and all these sort of cyber activists taking part in trying to defend this guy and his site. Now, whether you agree with him or you don't agree with him, the morals of this and so on like this, unbelievably powerful. Unbelievably. And there isn't one nation or one organisation behind them at the end of the day. So is it real? Yes, it is. Here we've got some quotes from GCHQ in relation to this. 650 million sterling of a budget put together. where they're failing on this, that's in the UK, where they're failing on this is the disconnect between what is critical national infrastructure, if you like, because they're trying to protect, say, government infrastructure, but a nation doesn't run on the government's infrastructure. It's the banks, it's the people that are here today, and the enterprises that you work for is actually what keeps an economy going, keeps a country going. So as I say, for the purpose of today, because it is a short presentation, I will go quite quickly through these, but happy to go through in more detail any of the particular slides if you spot anything you want. Bring this up, is it real? Anybody hear of this virus called Stuxnet that was out and it brought down SCADA systems or control systems? The technology was around for quite a bit, where you can actually write code or virus, and in the full presentation of this I show a demonstration video of what's known as the Aurora project, where they showed that they could blow up nuclear plants or blow up electricity stations or whatever by just using a virus. The Stuxnet virus is one of these viruses that get out there. The code for it is now available on the black market, so you can target it at anything. But if people think these viruses or this technology isn't politically motivated, then just look at the map of where these infections were. Most of them were around the Iranian nuclear plants that got attacked, and it specifically attacked Siemens systems that control these things that were being used by the Iranians, so around Indonesia and so on. I think we zoom in here a bit more. You can see Indonesia and Iran were the main targets of that. So this wasn't just a virus that happened to go there. This was written by some government at the end of the day. Let's be honest, when you scratch the surface on it, specifically targeting another nation. So that's an example of cyber warfare. The blended threat. Okay, when we go through and I'll show you sample crime and cybercrime, you'll see that a lot of this comes from Eastern Europe, or a lot of this comes from China. Why can't we get these people who are doing this, the perpetrators of these crimes? And the reason is that these nations actually use these cyber criminals for their own gain. So going back to, if you Google the stories on cyber warfare in Estonia and so on, there's these great Russian statues, bronze statues, that were being taken down by the Estonians, which really annoyed the Russians. So they said, okay, we're going to take down your country. So they pretty much went after Estonia. And who do they use to do it? They use these cyber criminals. So there's this sort of mafia-style relationship between them. I'll do you a favour, you do me a favour, you don't extradite me, I'll get away with cybercrime, and you can use me whenever you need me at the end of the day. So it's pretty much mafia-style on that side of things. Just want to bring your attention to some computer misuse legislation. The European Convention on Cybercrime, which is, if you like, blessed by Ireland, as they've said, yes, this is a good idea and we've signed up to it, but it's not ratified yet. It's on the horizon of being ratified. It's what we've been here for a long time, but it does really seem that it's going to come here. This is the first piece of legislation that will really categorise what is a cybercrime. Because our legislation, specifically in Ireland, is so far behind the crimes that when someone does attack you or do a crime, you're probably trying to find a loophole in the law where you're suing them for using cycles of electricity by CPU cycles and so on like that, and stealing electricity, as opposed to actually hacking in, because the legislation isn't there to say, for example, there's never been a case brought to the DPP for a DDoS attack in Ireland. Never. So we don't even know if there's a law against it. Because it's so far and so out of touch with what's actually going on. So, directors can be personally liable under this legislation, and finally maybe then we'll get some focus around this, because they can risk imprisonment, they can risk massive personal fines and so on. The computer-related offences are broken down into things like forgery, child pornography or exploitation images, copyright offences and so on. Just going to digress for a second on this, right? It's very interesting how governments actually use this sort of legislation. They start scaremongering, doing optics and saying, you know what we need to do? We need to bring in filtering on the internet, because there's child exploitation images in there, and we're going to have this blacklist and this whitelist, okay? Well, I can tell you, if someone gets the catches guys that do this sort of stuff, they don't go to the sites on the blacklist and the whitelist. They run within virtual machines and so on when they're doing their business. So this is just optics in order to be able to put some filtering in for all the onus on the industries, like ISPs and so on. And not speaking for Aircom on that side there. But this is putting onus on. But why do they really want it? I think we see some little fine print in the Finance Act that came in, which means that if you instigate a bet from Ireland on any site around the world, it will be taxed in Ireland. So now they can filter you and track you, what you're doing on the internet. So all this sort of legislation comes in. So my cynical brain is saying that actually they're not so worried about stopping child porn. If they were, they could switch it off like that in an instant. It's more about how they can actually make money out of this and how they can control environments. Okay, director's responsibility. There's a direct quote. Ensure that a legal person can be held liable where the lack of supervision or control by a natural person has made possible the commission of a criminal offence established in accordance with the Convention. In other words, If you didn't stop it happening, you didn't have to be the criminal, no malintent, nothing like that, but you didn't stop it happening by having adequate controls in place, whether they're around humans, whether they're processes, whether they're technology. If you didn't have those things in place, if we proved you didn't, you're liable as a director when it gets ratified. Interestingly, Ireland hasn't signed up, but the United States has. Right? So there's a lot of other countries that are coming around saying this is a great way to go, this is pretty much an even-handed way, it's something we can all measure ourselves against as nation states. The progression of cybercrime. We hear a lot about cybercrime. Is it just another buzz term? Cyber terrorism, cyber espionage, all those things. Essentially, look, all of these sort of crimes are around for a long time. This is a new way of doing. The internet's just a new way of doing criminal business. The same sort of scams have been around a long time. They just found a new method of doing it, finding more people together on it and all that sort of stuff, and being able to apply the trade. But it is an economy. It's broken down into different categories. You have wholesalers, you have independent people, you have a black stock exchange where you can buy and sell information, very easy to get onto. They have ratings just like eBay to say, you're a good purveyor of stolen information, you're not so good when I buy it off you and so on, so you can actually trust. And they break it down into a broken up economy so that not one person can be traced for the crime. And a lot of people actually get involved in cybercrime and don't even realise it. So, for example, the likes of money mules and so on, and I'll go through a little example of those as well as we go on. What has helped proliferate this is technology. It is the fact that no longer do you have to be a computer genius to be able to hack into someone and create a virus. Over 60,000 viruses a day are out there, or variants of viruses a day. Previously, it would have been 500 a month, going back just a few years. Right, less than a decade ago, it was only 500 a month. 60,000 a day. And why is this? Because there's so much more technology being used, it's so much easier. You can get what's known as crimeware. This is software for committing crimes. It costs about $150. You can download it, you can buy it, you can install it, and all of a sudden you can track what people are doing on the computers, what they're typing on their keyboards, what passwords they use, and how they're getting into their bank account, all that sort of stuff, and steal their information. This is also, so here I've just given an example of a phishing email. And a phishing email is where, the standard stuff, you probably get 100 of them a day, I know I do. Telling me that, telling me I need Viagra, or telling me I need to buy a Rolex watch, or whatever it happens to be. And what they're doing is either trying to sell you dubious goods, or they're trying to tell you, listen, come along to, let's call it Celtic Bank Limited, right? Come along to Celtic Bank Limited, and we're going to extend your credit rating, just putting the rest of your personal details here. You think you're on your bank site, but you're not. You put in some details, and now they have more information about you. And they build this up in layers and layers and layers, and this becomes more valuable, and they can sell it on the black stock exchange. So, what's interesting is how they work around the social side of this and actually what's happening in the world. So you've got ones here for Hurricane Katrina and areas like that. And pretty much anything you click on your machine, if you don't trust it or you haven't trusted it, it could be something that's putting crimeware on your machine from one of these crimeware kits. Money mules operations I mentioned there. Very quickly on that, you may see signs when you stopped at the traffic lights. Earn money from home, earn extra cash at home, work from home, all this sort of stuff. Many of those, or most of them I would say, are actually part of these scams, where what they want to do is get home workers. Generally, the best thing is to find somebody that needs money and is Irish and has a good Irish bank account and good stay or whatever, and they will give them tasks to do. They'll say, you're our country representative, you're our country agent, we need you to send these brochures, we need you to do whatever it is. They give them some mandatory tasks. Eventually the day comes when they say, we need you to accept some money into your account, let's call it 10 grand, and then you send 8 grand out by Western Union. They've just laundered cash and they've just bought it in. So they compromise somebody's bank account and put the money through. They become a money mule. Most of them that get hit tend to be students, are people that just want to get 2 or 3 grand, quick money, it's big money to them, and they get caught up in this and then they put their hands up and say, sorry, I didn't know, I was part of that, whether they know or not. It's just something very easy to do, and there's an awful lot of it going on at the moment. So some of the sample money mule titles: private financial receiver, money transfer agent, shipping manager. Lots of cases of this well documented about very sophisticated websites that looked exactly like banks and someone like that were trying to hire agents and things like that. So they don't have to be very foolish or very naive to fall for these things, because the verbiage and so on that's used in the sites and the emails that entice people is very prevalent. It all gets broken down to basics, which is things like laptop theft are still a huge risk. Okay, most people have their laptops encrypted now, or the portable media, or whatever, and say, well, what's the big deal? I lost a laptop, or whatever. The value of the information on the laptop, not just from a qualitative perspective of reputational loss and things like that, but from the quantitative perspective of what it's worth to a criminal. If you can get $5 for a user ID, and you manage to get 75,000 user IDs, and you can sell that on the black market, that's a lot of money. So this stuff, don't fool yourself, is being targeted. in the back of cars, in pubs, in whatever, where stuff's left out. So bare minimum, obviously, is things like laptop encryption. So it gets down to those basic physical kinetic things, as opposed to just thinking mad cyber stuff, people hacking in, or insider threat, and all those sort of areas. So crimeware, I've touched upon that. These are the tools that are available for pretty much a novice. And if you go in, after this, if you go home, you play around on YouTube or Google, whatever, type in carding, C-A-R-D-I-N-G, right, into YouTube or whatever, or type in hacking tutorial, or something like that, anything like that, that you want to be a novice and learn how to get into cybercrime. And you will get handheld tutorials on how to get involved in the cybercrime economy on different aspects. And it might be that you're a web developer and you can develop phishing sites. It might be that you work in a bank and you can get access to information and plant software on it, or whatever it happens to be. There's lots of various areas. That's what the sort of software, the screenshots look like. As I say, these things can be installed very easily, very quickly. Your standard antivirus will be shot by the likes of Sophos and Symantec and all this for saying this. Antivirus software, you've got to think about it, is written for mainstream viruses. Okay? If somebody is creating a particular virus for you that's not creating the definition files or cotton definition files, they're going to pretty much have a good chance of not being detected, especially if updates aren't in place and so on like that, of getting through. So it's not the silver bullet to have antivirus, but obviously it is actually a must-have. This stuff's available in the cloud. Here's one where you can go on, you can click and say, you can buy credits and say, okay, now I want to go in and I just want credit card numbers from Ireland. Or whatever it happens to be, and I can click my way through, and there's the price list, 50 credits for a date of birth, credit card balance. Now, why is it broken down? And actually, point out there the mother's maiden name, still used by lots of people as a security authentication piece of information. However, it's a public piece of information. I can go in and get any one of your birth certs I want once I know your name and have some vague details on it. And it's another demonstration I do where I stole Sean Fitzpatrick's ID very simply, and I got his birth cert, I got his mother's maiden name, blah, blah, blah. One thing leads to another. This is how these guys work. They layer up and get the information. So all these little nuggets of information, all these fields of information are all worth and all have a particular value. Mentioned the credit card sales sites, or these carding forums, which are the stock exchanges. These are the eBays of criminal information that you can go to and actually buy and sell the information that you're looking for. Now I'll give you a quick example, because what I don't want to do is people go, oh yeah, that's all very technical stuff at the end of the day. I want to give you a quick example of how social media and how, let's say, the recessionary times we live in increases the insider threat risk, and the fact that there's more technology like social media around, and things like Facebook and all those sort of things. So a scenario here, which apart from Paul Gillen and Dave Riley and UCD, and I've answered a bit go through, but it's a very good concept to show how this sort of crime works, right? So we have Sally. She works in a bank, Celtic Bank Limited, in Ireland. So again, I want to emphasise a number of jurisdictions involved here. We have Harry, is in Germany. And they meet on Facebook, which is based in the States, and they fall in love. So that's where we all go, ah. So we move on from there. And, sorry, just one sec. Harry then contacts Sally and said, listen, you know, I really love you. I want to meet with you. How do we get together? I believe you work in a bank. I have a friend that if you can get me a list of all the account holders that have over 50,000 as in a balance in the current account, I can get money for that, and I can come visit you, and we can get to know each other and all that good stuff, whatever. So that's all well and good. She said, no, I can't do that. I will be caught. If I email this, they have systems in place that will catch the email straight away. Oh, that's okay. He says, use your USB key. Put a USB key and post to me. No, the DLP, the data leakage prevention software, will stop that going through a USB key. He said, okay, let me think about this. Gets back and says, I'll tell you what to do. Go to a site called RapidShare, right, which is a file drop site based in Switzerland, and that site allows anybody to pop up some information which bypasses most standard security controls because it's over web browsing, and if you're allowed to web browse, you're allowed pretty much to go to sites like this. And it's not RapidShare, it'll be another one with an obscure name, but the same sort of technology. It's in Switzerland. Put the file up there, but the link will only last, let's say, you can time it and say, I want this information to be available with the link for 30 minutes. Okay? She uploads the spreadsheet, goes up there, the link is available. She clears her history, and she moves on. Now, what are the chances of Celtic Bank Limited ever detecting that crime? That somebody has actually taken that as, and by the way, has she actually even created a crime? Because under Irish law, she probably hasn't, because in her job, she's actually allowed access to that information, so on. Harry sells the information to his buddy in Russia, so now we've jumped in another jurisdiction. He gets some cash, That goes through various money mules and blah, 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 and gets back to Harry. Now, Harry needs to get the money back to Sally. So how does he do that? He uses his money mule in the UK. He transfers the money via PayPal, which is in Luxembourg. So that money heads off in there. So he gets a cut now, the money mule in the UK. And actually PayPal, a legitimate business, get their little cut on it as well. And then that's sent by Western Union to Ireland over to Sally. Very simple, very mundane crime. This is the sort of thing that happens on a daily basis. So it's not the sophisticated hacking in, stealing databases or crimeware and a lot of stuff. It's very mundane stuff like this where controls need to pick up on. Who's behind this sort of stuff? This is the daddy of it all. It's a guy called Albert Gonzalez. He was behind things like the TK Maxx attack and so on like that. Give you an idea of some more recent characters in this. There was a guy, I mean, a lot of you maybe on your home PCs may have come across this fake antivirus software that says, you have a virus. Click here to scan your machine. You scan your machine and it finds lots of real information about you, the cookies, the sites you were visiting, blah, blah, blah. And it finds some viruses. You go, oh my God, I need to do something about that. I need to update. And it looks very like a normal commercial application. That was run by a guy from the Russian mafia. When they caught him, he had $250 million in his bank account. That was that bank account they found him with. He ran support lines. He was making a lot of his money out of the phone system where people were phoning him for support. So you get a virus, and you pay the Russian mafia for your antivirus support, which is a fake virus product, antivirus product. So that's how these sophisticated crimes are going. And that one was flying around Ireland for a long time as well. So these guys, the main crews were started to take down by a guy called Malarski from the FBI, and Gonzalez's crew, although they infiltrated it and they got them to put some secret software on all the machines, they only arrested 28 or 4,000 or something like that. So most of this crew is still out there. And in fact, you still come across TK Maxx data of all those credit card details that were stolen as well. That's just a quick board of, you can see some of the main players are actually still available out there in relation to that. This is just a recent price list of how much data is worth. So getting back to a missing laptop of 50,000 records or 70,000 records on it, whatever it happens to be, and we look at this and say, well, what's it going to be worth? Let's go here, what have we got? Skimmed. Duplicated magnetic track data from points at restaurant. So if I'm a waitress, use your imagination, in a restaurant, and I manage to skim cards, or I work in a retail, but I manage to skim cards, and I bring back the little skimming device at night time, I put it in the USB, and I upload them. I will get around about $40 for every card detail that I manage to skim. Now, why is that? Because we've got chip and pin in Ireland. So you say, oh, why are we doing that? Because it's much more secure here. Yeah, we are much more secure here. That is sent over to other territories that wouldn't have advanced security systems, those sort of backwaters like the United States of America. So where you sign for this stuff, and you can go up to ATS, and they will manufacture the cards. And I don't think it's in this deck now, but I've got a slide where it shows you the size of the skimming devices on the inside. So very quickly they can go like that in an apron or behind the bar or whatever it happens to be. Skim that. That goes up. It's over in the States within minutes. And to buy a kit to do all this, to set yourself up in the crime business, is under $1,000, including getting, I think you get something like 100 cards with it that you can actually clone there and then. So this is how you build up these pieces of information. That's just one example of things, but you can see all the different pieces have different values as they go through. So what's mainstream now? DDoS, distributed denial of service. Okay, this is where I may infect your machine, not to steal your data, right? Just to put a piece of software in your machine, which means when I want the power of your machine, I can call on it. Your machine becomes a zombie and becomes part of a botnet, and I will be a botnet herder. And so when I want to attack a site, I'll have these thousands of machines that are infected with my piece of code, and I can wake them all up at the same time and say, now I want you to use all their internet connections to attack a particular site and do a particular thing to cause that site problems and bring it down. So distributed denial of service. Child's play. Absolute child's play. Go onto YouTube, see how to do it. I've got videos up there showing people how to do it. I know recently did a presentation with Pattern. I showed live how to do this as well. I went into control panels and showed you don't need to be a nerd to be able to do this stuff. It's pretty straightforward. Child exploitation material, still a big thing. There's the motivators on the hard end tend not to be money. But there is money behind any crime, and there's people that provide the services for hiding the stuff and all those sort of things that are involved in the money-making element of that side of things. PABX fraud. Lots of people still being hit. Tend to be over weekends. They get hit for 10 or 20 grand on the phone bills. Doesn't sound like a whole lot of money. In this economy where small businesses are struggling, if you're hit for 10 grand on your phone bill, you could be out of business like that because you can't afford to pay the phone bill. Because of the different regulators involved and all those sort of things, who do you argue with to say that it wasn't your phone bill? It becomes a nightmare, an absolute nightmare to deal through these things. What you'll see is you'll see different ethnic groups who are selling these call cards to phone home. They're all working off hacked PABX systems. So when they buy the cards between each other for $5, $10, whatever, a lot of them are actually working off hacked telephone systems. Ransomware. The main targets of this is small to medium businesses. They will compromise your network, encrypt all your data, and say, you're not getting access to any of your information until you transfer money to us. And then they give them the key on how to unlock all their stuff. Trojans and malware I've touched upon, so that's from the virus side of things, making your machines zombies and so on. Identity theft. Identity is stolen every 3 seconds in the UK. We don't have accurate statistics in Ireland from the best I could do, but it is a growing area, very easy to do, and it's a very sophisticated crime, usually linked to other crimes as well. But what's the big threat at the moment? Small finance is, what's the next big thing? The big thing is here already. I mean, from the point of view of being able to infect machines, create zombies, create networks and computers to be able to use it, it is down to things like social networking sites. So these are the big main players, right, that most people mainstream would have heard of. And they say, oh yeah, I've heard of Facebook, I heard of LinkedIn, I use all these sort of things, blah, blah, blah. These are applications. These are sophisticated applications that you're running on your machine, and they can do things. When you click on something to say, yes, I'll join, or yes, I'll go, I'll install this app, or they can all do things, and you give them control of your machine and the processor. The reality is, there's cajillions of these things. Right? Because depending on what you're into, you're going to find one for people that polish marble in the evenings, and they'll have a social network site, and whatever it happens to be. So there's lots of them out there. And if we look at the big one, Facebook, 500 million users at the moment. Okay. There's 900 million objects, so that's files, pieces, blah, 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 on the site itself. It's in 70 languages. 20 million applications a day get installed. So what they have found out, let's go on the legitimate side, okay? People sign up to Facebook, and in the terms and conditions it says, we cannot guarantee web security and the security of your data. Straight away, they say that. Now what is Facebook? How do they make the money? They're a marketing company, right? They use the information to do various things. It's been proven some of their applications, like games and things like that, have been streaming information back to people, getting more geo-data related stuff, which is very good for criminals, by the way. If I can work out where you are, and I have to laugh with, you see people posting pictures using their phone and saying, look at my new Porsche, look at this, blah, blah, blah. That's given the exact coordinates in the URL of where the Porsche is, where what happens, and then you can go even scarier and think of children that take pictures of themselves and put them up, and it's given the coordinates, the exact coordinates of where the child is. And that's held in the metadata in the link. So, we have a big risk using these things. 20 million mobile users. If you look at this in India, the big growth rate is all around mobile users and so on, because they're going to be much more affluent, they're going to have money and things like that. And because there's not really the greatest cooperation between, let's say, Apple and other companies in relation to being open and how they're going to deal with these things, and viruses and malware and how all that's going to work, they claim there is none. But, the bottom line, it's simple, as I say, criminals go where people go. And you have 10% of internet time spent on social networking sites, and Facebook is the 3rd biggest country in the world after China and India. So think of it like that. And that's where everybody is. If you can, so if I'm a cyber criminal, I may go there to recruit people, because it's 500 million, and I can find them pretty easy. If I want to find people that work in banks, I want people that might want to buy some crimeware, I want to do my business, it's a market. So these sort of sites, I'm not specifically targeting Facebook here, it's any social site that goes from there. So thanks for your time and attention. Hopefully I haven't overrun too much on it. I'm not the greatest at the timekeeping side of things. What I would encourage you to do is to visit the ICTTF website, ICTTF.org, or securityprinciple.com, and I'm happy to follow up on any questions. I know we'll have a Q&A at the end, and I can go through in detail any more stuff. So thank you very much for your time. I'll hand you over to Paddy Duffy.